Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Jenny Dixon and I am the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Strategic Engagement at the University and Chair of the Creative Thinking Board. A very warm welcome to the University this evening. It's marvellous to see you all here and to see your interest in our speaker and the topic. But before I introduce our guest speaker, Kevin Roberts, and we get on with things, I would like to say a few words about the Creative Thinking Project. The Creative Thinking Project is a university-wide interdisciplinary initiative which brings together academics, donors and supporters who are interested in the value of creativity in society. We have several streams of activities underway, including research projects, the first ever general education course on creative thinking, which started last year, and an active program of public engagement through our Creative Fellows program. To date, we've had 6 distinguished creative fellows, 5 from overseas, who all come from a very wide range of fields. And tonight's lecture forms part of our outreach, which has been very successful in stimulating discussions about creativity both within and outside New Zealand, and I assure you tonight will be no exception. Following the presentation, Associate Professor Cathy Stinier, a neuroscientist, will interview Kevin, and I can assure you it will be lively. Cathy is Director of the Brain Recovery Clinic in our Centre for Brain Research and a member of our Creative Thinking Board. Cathy, as you will find out, is a very creative communicator about science and its possibilities. So now I'd like to move on and introduce Kevin Roberts. Now I'm sure Kevin's well known to many of you, but he is chair of Saatchi Saatchi, which is one of the world's leading creative organisations with over 6,500 people and 130 offices in 70 countries. Saatchi Saatchi works with 6 of the top 10 and over half of the top 50 global advertisers. Kevin has honorary appointments and doctorates at a number of universities, and I think you'll be interested to hear this. Presently, he is Honorary Professor of Innovation and Creativity at the University Auckland Business School, Honorary Professor of Creative Leadership at Lancaster University, and Honorary Professor of Leadership and Innovation at the University of Victoria, BC School of Business. Kevin was made a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to business and the community. Currently, he is Business Ambassador for the New Zealand United States Council and Chair of the Healthy Food with Recipes delivery service, My Food Bag, which I'm sure you'll be interested to hear. And those are just a little bit of his very impressive CV. So now I'd like you to join with me in welcoming Kevin.
Thanks, Jenny. Can you hear me at the back? Sorry. I pulled my hamstring yesterday, so if any of you have had a pulled hammy, you'll know it's A, quite painful, and B, quite restrictive, right? So I don't normally walk around here like Skippy the Australian kangaroo. I normally have, a very athletic gait, so I'm suffering a bit. What was all that about the brain? What? They never told me about that. Brain recall. What was it? Brain recovery. Brain recovery. I've had lots of introductions in my life, but it's the first time I've been told, and now we're going to move straight to the Brain Recovery Clinic. Thank you very much indeed. I've been asked to talk about the relationship between creativity and innovation, right? So I might touch upon that once or twice during all this stuff. I know much more about the creativity side and a little bit about the innovation side, but it's the creativity side that I spend most of my time. I'm going to talk about it in the framework of winning in New Zealand, right? So I came here 30 years ago, actually as soon as I could escape from wherever I was, Switzerland or Canada or someplace. Think about living in Switzerland, right? And you think about innovation and creativity. It's like cuckoo clocks, chocolate, Roger Federer. It all works, but I came here because I thought there was more going on, and I was right. So I want to talk about those two topics in the context of New Zealand thriving and winning, because I think creativity and innovation is right up our alley. And we can't win in sort of scale or power or global importance and all that kind of stuff, but we can win now through creativity and innovation, because all the barriers have gone. We don't have geography problems. We don't have communication problems. We don't have any of that stuff. We're all enabled now. And in fact, living where we live actually gives us competitive advantage, right? If you think that, if you study biology, and there's probably a smart biologian here, given it's university or something, all development, from a species comes from the edge of the world, right? Nothing goes up in the middle. I mean, I work for a French company, right? Imagine what's happened there since 1775, not very much, right? Because it all just gets blocked in the wine and the cheese. Pretty good wine, pretty good cheese, but nonetheless. Whereas you're out here, things are going to happen, right? So creative thinking, innovative thinking in the context of winning, right? Some people sort of don't like the idea of winning, because it's all a bit non-politically correct. It's really, taking part that matters. I don't subscribe to that nonsense at all. I think it's about taking part, being the best you can be, not sacrificing anything, and wiping the floor with the other bloke. Right, Brian? I used to work at Lion Nathan. Brian Blake's here, who ran DB, and we spent most of our time trying to wipe the floor with each other. Unfortunately, I had Lion Red, so I wasn't really batting with a proper deck. Anyway, and then we went to Wellington. It turned into Lion Brown. It tasted just the same to me, but brown and red, I don't know. But then you had DB Draft, which was kind of your own struggle, I guess. So we live in a VUCA world, right? You know what that is, a VUCA world. I was invited to the Pentagon some months ago, right? I was called by this guy. Trudy said to me in New York, we have the Pentagon on the phone. I said, I don't think so. I said, he's probably one of my idiot New Zealand friends telling you, a gullible American, if you can imagine there's such a thing, that it's she said, it's the Pentagon. I said, how'd you know? She said, you'll know. Anyway, I have never, until that moment, I've not been in the military, and I have never spoken to a big shot army person. Anyway, this guy, 5-star American general. Who knew they had 5 stars? I thought only hotels had 5 stars. But in the US military, a general can get 5 stars. Anyway, have you ever talked to one? Have you been in the military? Talked to one? 5-star job? I've still never talked to one. You're not required to talk back. It's just you listen and that's it. Anyway, the guy says to me, you will come up to the Pentagon next Saturday. I said, I don't think so. He said, you're not listening. We will come to the Pentagon next Saturday and talk to us. And I said, yeah, okay. What about? He said, you will talk to us about how to improve the image of America overseas. I said, I don't think so. This is the land of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It's just not going to happen, mate. I'm the wrong bloke. Boom. Like, what? Hello? Trudy, call him back if you can. I think he's hung up. So does not know who I am. Anyway, yeah, I said, okay, I got all that. Who am I going to be talking to? Are there any Americans here? Best to ask. Anyway, they talk real different, Americans, don't they? They talk like funny, like they're not talking to people properly. So who are we talking to? He said, our best and brightest. It's like only Americans talk like that. And I saw it'll be a small room then. Anyway, it wasn't a small room. There's 200 of these people, and they didn't qualify on either criteria. Okay, let me tell you that. Okay, and anyway, during this presentation, this big fruit salad guy at the back stands up and says, listen, boy, we live in a VUCA world. Have you heard that? VUCA world. I'd never heard of it either. I thought it was something on your foot. Anyway, so he goes, a VUCA. And I said, oh. I was a bit angry though by then, so I made out as if I was an expert on VUCA. And he said, yeah, we live in a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I was quite relieved then, because I understood that, right? Volatile, yes, it's volatile. Uncertain, yeah, do we know what's going to happen next? I've got no idea what's going to happen next. 5-year plans, 3-year plans, good luck with all of that stuff. If you can predict for 100 days, you're a bloody genius. Complex, it's very complex. You're either with us or against us. No, actually, I'm both. I'll see. Co-opetition is alive and well, and very ambiguous. So he said, so strategy, then we're all talking about strategy and all being very strategic and all that kind of stuff, but actually now in the US, we're sort of going to stop land invasions and invading the Middle East again every 5 years, and we're going to do drones. We're going to still keep killing people, but we're going to be much more selective and just take out the odd hospital, the odd school, collaterally, but it won't be a big sort of, I said, oh, that's really progress, I suppose. Not super excited, but very good, okay? That's very good. Keep moving down that path could be good. I said, but by the way, I said, having lived in Italy and Argentina and Ireland and New Zealand, this is the only life we've ever known, actually. Obviously, it doesn't apply to Switzerland and Germany, but for the rest of the world, we live this. And I said, in fact, we've moved past that in New Zealand, and we live today in a super VUCA world. So, because I'm in advertising, everything is super. You have super league, super size, super models, super everything. And I said, in the world that we live in, Captain America, is a world that is vibrant, full of life, full of hope, full of optimism, full of bright people, full of kids wanting to make a difference. Okay, it is a world that's unreal. Because in the past, for us to change the world, we had to have power, and we had to have money, and we had to have resources, and lots of connections and all that. We don't need any of that stuff now. None of that to change the world now. All you need is one thing. An idea. Okay, and ideas come from everywhere. Ideas come from everywhere. That's unreal, man. We can change the world even though we're at the edge of it, because we have ideas. And we can change the world even though we're a young nation with young people, because we have ideas. In a super VUCA world, it's a world that's crazy. Now, I'm seriously crazy. Do you believe that? Karen, do you believe that? You should believe it. I'm frightened of nothing. Huh? I was born very poor, and now I'm really rich. And being rich is so much better. So I'm not frightened of anything anymore. And I'm old, right? So that's another good thing, right? So we need crazy people, because like, what's his face said, George Bernard Shaw, was it, all progress will come from the unreasonable man, right? We need crazies, because in an ideas, super VUCA ideas world, a world where creativity and innovation count, who do we face every day? The abominable no man, usually in finance. Or a lawyer, and I know you're out there somewhere lurking. Okay? And then you go to Wellington, and it all slows down. And then no matter who's in power, you have to talk to the government. And then if you're not careful, they call in McKinsey, and then it turns expensive as well as slow. Anyway, so you need crazies, because crazy people are the only people who can keep ideas alive, because ideas are very precious, very sensitive, and everybody's dedicated to killing an idea, because we don't know if it's going to work. Because an idea is only an idea once, and it's not been done before. Then it's not an idea, it's an innovation. But when it's a creative idea, we don't know. There is no success model. There is no experience. There is no research. It's an idea. So it's easy to kill, hard to keep alive. And then it's a world that's astounding in a super VUCA world, because you can do all this stuff immediately. You don't need a 10-year plan. You don't need a big capital plan. Man, all you need is anything that comes out of Cupertino, California, and a little beep, 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 beep. Right? Share it to your immediate 250,000 friends, or pretend friends, or hoped for friends, and you can change everything. So in a super VUCA world, my view is that you will not manage yourself to glory or quality control yourself to glory or process yourself to glory. You will reach the future first through having a culture of creativity and innovation, the two. Some areas we're pretty good at that. When we first showed that to David Rutherford, who was the CEO of New Zealand Rugby at the time, he said, yeah, I like it, but do you think it has some religious overtones? What are you talking about? Oh, it's just rugby. Edward de Bono, talking about him today. Edward said, there's no doubt that creativity is the most important human resource of all. Without it, there would be no progress. We'd be forever repeating the same pattern. Creativity for me is about dreaming the magic pathway. Innovation is about building that pathway. So the creativity is the dream, is the beginning, is the idea. Innovation then is all about executing that and making it come true. To win in this VUCA world, to be a creative person, to be a creative country, to be a creative practitioner, you need to start every day by repeating your ABCs. Every day you got to look in the mirror before you go out to work and go, okay, let me check out my ambition, my belief, and the courage that I hold to make it come true. That's what creative people do. That's what they start every day. They have an ambition to disrupt, an ambition to transform, the belief that they can do it and that they are a right path despite, as Colin Powell once said, don't let the facts get in the way of the right decision. So they look at that belief and then they have the courage to keep going. What do innovators do every day? They live their life in 3D. Their whole day is filled with desire, determination, and discipline, not to be thwarted, to be persistent, never to go off the path, because that's what innovators do. They create value through relentlessly pressing on, adding value, changing stuff up. For me, we live now in the age of the idea. We live in the age of creativity. We live in the age of disruption. The biggest taxi car company in the world doesn't own a single car, right? Uber's become a verb. If you don't disrupt yourself, if you don't Uber yourself now, you are being Ubered. You just don't know it yet. But you will be. The biggest hotel company in the world, Airbnb, doesn't own a single hotel room. Just delivers a fantastic customer experience. The biggest retailer in the world, Amazon, doesn't own a single store. So if you are not creative, if you don't have a culture of ideas, you will be Ubered. My dream is very simple for New Zealand: to win the world from the edge. We must win the world from the edge, and we can only do that through creativity, through disruption, and through changing everything up. New Zealand is an edge zone. We've got a huge history of creativity, of first splitting the atom, giving women the vote, conquering Everest, etc., etc., etc. And Auckland is at the epicenter of that edge. Okay, Auckland is the city that people want to live in. It is the city where connectivity reigns. It is the city where people can come together with academia, with business, and it is the city where government are kept out. So the challenge for us in New Zealand is, yes, we've got to add creativity. Yes, we've got to thrive in the chaos that creative people live in. And then we've got to add commerciality. We've got to add scalability so that we can scale those ideas and execute them quicker and faster than ever before without being distracted.
So tell me about yourself.
Well, you know, I'm an organized person. I'm somebody who does not leave details out. I'm actually very, very good with groups. I've surpassed all my goals in my previous position, my prior job, and competitor. All my personnel under me have surpassed their own goals.
So we got a lot of history in New Zealand of great creators. Creativity is about what is possible, and these kind of Kiwi creators believe nothing is impossible. Creativity looks at the infinite. It's about attacking the unknown. Innovation is a finite proposition for me. It's about what we know, doing something new with what exists. So creativity is about the infinite. Innovation is about the finite. Creativity is inspiration, intuition, improvisation thrown at the impossible. It's all those I words thrown at the impossible. It's the art of conceiving something original. Innovation is the implementation of something new and something that has value. People, not machines, are the creators. You can watch all this augmented reality and all this robot stuff, and it's all very interesting and all very Jetson-like and all that stuff. But data and algorithms, they predict, they accelerate, they enhance. It's great. Can't live without this stuff. It enables us to move faster. But big ideas come from people with big hearts, big ears, and big hopes. They don't come from technology. Technology is an enabler that makes us smarter, faster. But it is emotion that drives big ideas. People like technology, but people love people.
Yo tengo 89 años y hace 35 que estamos casados.
Llevamos pronto 62 años de casado.
Y hace 54 años que nos conocemos.
Hace 40 años.
¿Qué es una selfie?
¿La qué?
Posiblemente sea desnudo.
Erótico.
¿Eh?
No, háblame en castellano, querida.
Ay, no sé lo que toqué.
No, pero acá sale una mancha oscura, che.
¿Salía?
Sí.
Sí,
no me veo la cara cuadrada. No importa.
Mirá los deditos míos arriba. Ahora saca la foto esa que está linda, ¿ves?
Está bonita, ve qué bonita que está.
Yeah, people love people, and that's Judge Bernard Shaw. So we need in New Zealand the crazy creators more than we've ever needed them. We need them in our schools, we need them in our universities, we need them in our businesses, we need them in our government. We need these crazy creative people who see things the other way. We need Steve Jobs, who turned presence into absence. Guy Laliberté, who took all the elephants out of circuses and created Cirque du Soleil. We need a guy who can think about flat packing furniture. Crazies are the big game players, and we can't just become a nation of innovators. It's not enough. We have to get back to the big idea, to creating these things, and we have to create cultures and value those cultures and encourage and nurture those cultures and disrupt our education system and disrupt the way we go about doing business. Being world class is rubbish. We've got to be world changing. We cannot just be world class. That's not good enough. That means you play rugby like England. You've got to be world changing. And we've got to move things real fast. And for that, we need some craziness. Here's some crazy ones.
Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
We've got to have more crazy ones, and then we've got to turn it over to the innovators. All right? Having the idea is a fantastic place to start, but ideas are sort of like, I don't know, orifices. Everybody's got one. The thing is, you've got to make them work. You've got to execute them, and New Zealand's got a great record of getting things done and making things happen. Arno Penzias talked about invention is the product of a creative or curious mind. Innovation is something that changes the life of the customer in some way. Creativity births something original. Innovation implements something new that people value. And if it isn't implemented, it isn't innovation. Okay? The key to innovation is implementation. South Africa is a country that has been having some real social problems in terms of the townships and Soweto and around those places where the gangs are getting younger and the crime is getting more violent. Okay, it used to be 17, 18 before you started shooting people. Now, 13, 14, 15 years old, you get yourself armed up and you indulge in the two classic South African crimes of carjacking and home invasion. Saatchi, we didn't think this was a fantastic way of going forward, so we came up with an idea, a creative idea of handling this.
Hello, my name is Thomas. In 12 years' time, I will meet at a stop street. I will walk up to your car and put a gun to your head. If you don't get out of the car, I will shoot you.
So we took the view that education was at the root cause of this thing, and if we could build schools in Soweto, the kids would go to school, have an education, and have a choice, and not just join the gang with no choice. The government weren't willing to invest in that kind of stuff for all kinds of political reasons, so we formed this trust. Within 1 week, we raised $3 million, all paid for by big, rich, white South Africans who were tired of getting carjacked and home invasion. So a win for everybody. So we are very excited about it. It's fantastic, terrific. I get a call from Pretoria. Hello, this is the Minister of State Security. We'd like you to come to Pretoria. And immediately I thought, fantastic, a knighthood. Or at least free tickets to Ellis Park. I thought this is going to be fantastic. I rock on down to Pretoria. It's me, 4 big black blokes, and a quiet room. Didn't look great. Guy says to me, now boy, it's not great, all this boy stuff. I didn't like that in the Pentagon, didn't like it in South Africa. Boy, these ads you've got. And I said, yeah, it's terrific, fantastic. We got $3 million last week, a couple of million already. Doing the job for you blokes. Building schools you should be building. I said, I'm just kidding, honestly, just kidding. He said, hey, listen, boy, you take that off air tonight. What? You take it off air tonight. I thought, no knighthood then. Knighthood's looking a bit soft. What do you mean? He said, you're denigrating our country. What are you talking about? This is what's happening. These kids coming out of a place you can't build schools, shooting people. What's the denigration? This will be bad for tourism. Everybody knows this is going on. We're fixing the problem. Now, you will take that off air in 24 hours, or you will be kicked out of South Africa. I said, I don't want to come back. He said, not you, Saatchi and Saatchi. I said, oh, that's different. So I go away 24 hours. I didn't think they were fooling. I was sort of stuck, really. So I knew some blokes, made some calls, and this is what we did.
Remember me? My name is Thomas. Some people didn't like what I had to say about my future. So they stopped the advert, but that won't change anything.
So unless you implement, you don't innovate. Okay, I've not been back, obviously. Stupid. What are you talking about, right? Anyway. So what's everybody's question today in the world is, how will you improve my life? You know, how will you make the world a better place? How will you make my life better? How will you bring a little bit of happiness to my life? That's what I want from creativity and innovation, okay? To do that, you've got to be very close to how people feel. You've got to be very empathetic to what they do. And you've got to deliver priceless value. They aren't talking about cheaper or faster. They're talking about make my life better, make my life happier. Innovation can be reproduced and scaled. That's one of our biggest challenges, commercialization of that innovation in New Zealand. We have to work on the science, we have to work on the process, we have to work on the commercialization. But I'm sure we can do that. I mean, the leading countries in the world on innovation are countries like Germany and like Sweden and like Korea that have got terrific execution skills. We can meet and beat them on that front. It will be challenging, but not impossible. I was thinking about this question, and to me, we've got this graph on creativity and innovation, and we need them both in New Zealand, and this is what it looks like. Okay? On the creativity side, that's where we need the dreamers. I don't know how we're going to build this. Are we going down? And on the innovation side, we need people who can touch, move, and get things started. We need people who can sense. It is no good. Creative people don't know what people say or do. They know that, but they don't care. What they have this terrific sense of is how people will feel. You know, none of us knew that we didn't need a DVD player. None of us knew that we needed Netflix. None of us knew that we never needed to own music again. We just go straight to Apple Music. We didn't know that stuff. But creative people felt that we needed mobility, we needed flexibility, we needed transparency, we need bespoke personalization. That's what creative people do. They feel the rhythm and the flow, the ebb of the people. What innovative people do is they learn, they fix. They fail fast, learn fast, fix fast. Fail fast, learn fast, fix fast. Constant state of learning. They don't care about getting it right first time, second time, third time, or fourth time. Just make different mistakes fast all the time. Creative people connect. Steve Jobs said creativity is just connecting stuff. Innovative people persist. They just relentlessly persist and keep going. Creative people invent. Innovative people implement. Creative people look to transform, to disrupt. Innovative people look to make incremental gains. You know, if you think about any of the big companies in New Zealand, how many, if there are any left, how many are transforming, how many are incrementally improving? Transformation is what we need. That's what we're trying to do with My Food Bag. We're trying to transform and put an end to supermarkets. We're trying to say, let's answer the question, what are we having for dinner tonight? You don't have to go to a supermarket, which is a sort of average experience. Instead, you can eat with Nadia Lim every night. It's a lot better. And we're looking for magic rather than the innovators who look for impact. Impact, impact, impact. So the creator will create a product and the innovator will give it impact.
2011. Technological advances and social networks can now turn a night out into hell. Divorce. You floozy. You're fired. Dirty old man. That's why Norte Beer presents Photo Blocker, the first beer cooler that detects when a photo is being taken and shines a flash, keeping you safe and sound. Norte Photo Blocker. What happens in the club stays in the club.
It's a great idea, but you need the execution. Anyway, so my focus for the next 10 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever we've got, is going to be on the creativity side of that equation, because that's the business I'm in. We don't do innovation at Saatchi & Saatchi. We create, we're an ideas company, not an advertising company. We got tons and tons of ideas, and if you don't like those, we got tons more. Okay, and we leave it to the poor clients out there to go out and implement and do all the innovation and do all the hard work. So I'm going to talk to you about the creative side, which I think is where it all begins and where the big wins are made. All the disruptions that you see are creative ideas first, then beautifully. And I'm going to start with the only equation I've ever written in my entire life. IQ plus EQ plus TQ plus PQ, all powered by CQ. Stuart, you got that? Okay, you'll explain it to Greg later. So here's what that is. IQ, for you to win today, to create a culture of ideas, to create an environment where the ideas keep coming. They keep coming, they keep coming. Our biggest client at Saatchi & Saatchi is Procter & Gamble, one of the world's biggest. We do $2 billion worth of stuff for them on brands like Pampers, Tide, Ariel, Head & Shoulders. A few weeks ago, they asked me to go up to Cincinnati. What a dreadful place to have a corporate headquarters, and go up there and talk to their top 28 leaders on how to find the big idea. So I rock up. We're in a smaller theater than this kind of thing, 28 of them, all the big shots, $2 billion of my business sitting there. And I go, I've been asked to talk to you today about how to find the big idea. There aren't any. And walked out. Of course, I walked back very quickly. It's $2 billion. It's $2 billion, right? My name's Billy, not silly. And then I said to them that if you spend all your time looking for that big idea, you will get nowhere. What a creative culture has to do is generate every day tons and tons and tons of small ideas. Small ideas. Yes, I know this is against all the focus rules and all that you learn, but it's not really. All we're saying is create an environment where ideas flow, put the ideas in today's highly technological world, and you will find out very quickly which ones customers participate in, get involved in, get engaged in. Then fuel everything you got onto that idea. But don't waste time on this endless wait for the next big thing. All of these next big things came from accidents and came from changing direction during the innovation, in the innovation path. Anyway, this is equation IQ, okay? If you're going to create an ideas culture, hire people who are smart. Okay, don't hire Muppets. You'd be amazed how few people listen to that. I mean, in business today, just look at government again. It's like the Muppet Show, right? So wherever you go, there are Muppets all around you. Muppets that have been there a long time, would-be Muppets, Muppets who are pretending not to be Muppets. Okay, Muppets who are Muppets, but they say they're not Muppets. But Muppets is what they are, right? And I like Kermit and Miss Piggy, don't get me wrong. But you can't have them running an ideas company. So get some smart people, ideally have them educated, and have them having lived a little bit or something like that. I'm not going to touch Australians because it's a very sensitive subject. I understand that. But I'll let you make the comparison. So, EQ, hire people who have got emotional bandwidth, who are in touch, who are empathetic, okay? Think about the financial services community and banks, right? Maybe they got high IQ, put them all together, their combined IQs below room temperature, EQ below room temperature. So we need people with EQ. We gotta have people with empathy, with intuition, with smell, with judgment, with flair, because that's where ideas are gonna flourish and find. TQ, do not fake technology, right? Do not be a slave to technology. For all of you that take your iPhones to bed with you, shame on you, and you know who you are. For those of you that take your iPads into your bedroom with you, double shame on you. You know who you are. For those of you who are constantly enslaved by those magical, ridiculous, stupid emails on your technology, you also know who you are. That is not having high TQ, that is having very low base TQ. High TQ is with you in charge of the technology, with you dictating the technology, with you using technology to speed you up and liberate you, not you being a slave to your own insecurities. So a TQ. So you've got to have, to be an ideas company, very high intelligence quotient, very strong emotional quotient, real technology quotient, and BQ, bloody quick. Bloody quick. Speed and agility is everything. Okay, speed is the new black. We do not have time for consensus management, for discussing this stuff endlessly, all powered by CQ, and you will not be surprised to learn that CQ is creativity quotient. You have to have hired crazies or neuroscientists. It's like the same thing. You can't wait to get up here with that microphone, can you? Yeah. She's ready, man. So that's the equation that you need to win in this world, and then you just got to do stuff bloody quick.
Relationships compressed by Stuff It Deluxe. Stuff It Deluxe. Download at stuffit.com. Available for Mac and PC. Pregnancy compressed by Stuff It Deluxe. Stuff It Deluxe. Download at stuffit.com. Available for Mac and PC. Las Vegas compressed by Stuff It Deluxe. Stuff It Deluxe. Download at stuffit.com. Available for Mac and PC. New Year's resolutions compressed by Stuff It Deluxe. Stuff It Deluxe. Download at stuffit.com. Available for Mac and PC. Life of a Goldfish compressed by Stuff It Deluxe. Stuff It Deluxe. Download at stuffit.com. Available for Mac and PC.
Ideas cultures are based on four things, right? I've run 6,000, 7,000 people, and now 70,000 people we've got in Publicist Group, creative people. And they thrive. You cannot get eagles to fly in formation, right? You cannot manage these people through command and control. They are, thank God, crazy loose cannons, beautiful things. Okay, so you manage them. You don't actually manage them. You inspire them to perform by giving them four things: responsibility, learning, recognition, and joy. You give creative people that. You give anybody that every day at the same time. Not responsibility today, learning tomorrow, recognition next week, and joy, God knows when. You give them all every day. You give them upwards, downwards. You expect your bosses to give them to you. You give them to your peers, your customers. You give people responsibility before they're ready. You give them tons of learning. Okay, all the time people are learning faster than ever before. You give them recognition. Let them bring the dog to work. Let them stay home and work. Give them money. Not that that matters that much unless you don't have any. But give them recognition. Let them wear what they want. And then they're joyful, right? If you're given every day tons of responsibility, tons of learning, tons of recognition, are you happy? Yes. Unhappy bunnies work harder than unhappy bunnies. So best to have lots and lots of happy bunnies, because that's where great ideas come from. And yes, you do need some fear. The fear's in the responsibility. Fear is a good thing, man. If you're a creative person, you're scared all the time because you don't know. You don't know where the next idea is coming from. You don't know how good it's going to be. You don't know. And there is no way of knowing. So every day there's a bit of... So you got to learn to love that. It's a good thing to be a little bit scared. Good thing to be a little bit scared if you're a creative person. And then handle that fear. Okay? And learn from it. Get recognition for it. The most important thing I do at Saatchi, in my view anyway, is to work with the creative people. And I give them unconditional love and support. Because you can tell I'm a sort of loving kind of... That's not a joke. So that wasn't funny, that. That was like, me opening up. I'll deal with you later. Anyway, recognition, responsibility, learning, recognition, and joy. Ideas are fragile, right? And unless you take care of them, they will disappear. People talk to me about new all the time, right? New ideas, new things, new this and everything like that. I really think new's already old. So by the time we know something that's new, our kids have been ripping it off for about 3 months. And they're not paying for it, and they've already been using it and moved on. So we don't live anymore in a place where new's so important. We live in a place where now is what counts. None of us have got any patience. You send an email, an hour later you're sending another email. Did you get my email? I want the action. You say, yeah, it's Sunday afternoon, I'm with the kids. No, I want to know now. No, everybody wants it all now. Immediate impulsive gratification. We've moved from the attention economy to a participation economy. There's Rolf Jensen, I think it was, he was the CEO of the Institute of the Future, said the storytellers will be the heroes of the 21st century. I had a meeting yesterday with the people who are building sort of global Auckland, and they were into me on storytelling. Storytelling's so passé now. Yeah, people have just discovered it. We've got to tell stories. We've got to have a narrative. Yeah, great. It's not. Storytelling is not the answer. The answer is story sharing. Story sharing. Kids don't want to be told stories anymore. They want to be part of the story. Disney's made them very interactive, okay? So have Apple. They want to be in the story. They want to be with the dragon. They want to be with the princess. They want to tell you the next line. In marketing terms now, nobody wants to be told a story. We want to share a story. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to have a dialogue. I want you to listen. I don't want to know. Stories don't have beginnings, middle, and ends anymore. If you watch The Blacklist, I don't know where we are in that, the beginning, the middle, or the end. I don't really care. But just this whole story's just evolving. We got to find ways to be in that. So whatever you're doing to get a creative culture, it's got to be highly participative. We've moved from the information age. We're drowning in the stuff. Everybody's got the same information, too much of it. We've moved into an age where inspiration's what counts, right? This is a pretty inspirational room, pretty inspirational arena. Most lecture theaters are dreadful. This is really uplifting, cool. It feels very good, at least from where I am. It's inspirational. We've moved from interruption to interaction. ROI, right? All the things they teach you in Greg's business school and in businesses and everywhere. Return on investment. So boring. And it's so imprecise. And everybody's got a formula and none of them work half the time. But the real ROI that matters in an ideas culture is how do we measure and predict return on involvement? How involved will the community be in Auckland University? How involved will you be in our creative thinking initiative? How involved will we be? Marketing as we knew it is dead as a dodo. The whole Kotler stuff of creating markets and creating demand and sustaining customers and all this stuff, that's all table stakes. The role of marketing has changed completely. It is not to build a brand or to pump a market. That's not how startups win. It is to create a movement. To create a movement. That's what the Creative Thinking Project is, the initiative is, right, Jenny? To create a movement that you can all share and be part of. And we hope you go out from here talking about creativity in Auckland in a different way. Here's an example of a movement that I couldn't resist. That's a different kind of movement. So in a VUCA world, right? So critical thinking is that strategy is no longer the killer app. In a VUCA world, your leaders have got to be leading and they got to be executing, right? I mean, some great French chess grandmaster said, strategy is something to do when you got nothing to do. Tactics is something to do when you got something to do. And in a VUCA world, execution means everything. And that's where creativity needs the innovators. Creativity has to be executed by the innovators. Leaders do three things. They only do three things in their life, right? It's a theory, the AID theory. They assess, they decide, they execute. They assess, they decide, they execute. That's what leaders do. Many of you are leaders. That's what you do. You assess, you decide, you execute. Companies of today, if you like, the big companies of today, we've done a lot of research on this. This is how the leaders spend their time. They spend 50% of their time assessing, looking at the data, interrogating the data, checking best practice, doing some research, doing more internet research, doing some focus groups, assessing what the competition are doing all kinds of graphs. Then they 30% of the time deciding, because none of them can say yes, they can all say no. So they talk to the regional guys, the marketing guys, the deans, they talk to the finance guys, they talk, God forbid, to the consultants, and they talk and talk and talk, and nobody decides. Then if they've got any time left in the week, the leader executes. Okay, he's exhausted by then, it's Friday, but that's what they do. In new companies, Google, Facebook, and so on, their leaders spend their time differently. Their leaders spend 20% of the time assessing because they know everything they need to know that's pertinent to you without the extraneous stuff. They have their decision-making closest to the customer, which is why they screw up a lot and they don't care. When have you ever bought an Apple product that worked first time? So never, right? But you don't care, you forgive them, and you keep going. Because they have their leaders spending 70% of their time on execution, fixing, learning, Failing, fixing, learning, failing, fixing. And that's what Ideas Company do. That's how leaders spend their time executing, because a fast game in this super VUCA world is a good game. All right, so to win from the edge, to unleash New Zealand's edge, we've got to build a culture of creativity and innovation. And I really welcome this initiative. And I believe that Auckland is the only place we can possibly build that from in New Zealand. Global Auckland's starting to solve its creative culture equation. We're the third most diverse city in the world, the third best city for the quality of living, 9th friendliest city. More Australians are emigrating to Auckland than the other way around. Personally, I don't think that's a real good thing, but what can you say? All right, so the city ticks all kinds of good boxes. It's investment friendly, it's easy to do business, great place. Today's generation of leaders, all of them, these young kids, these millennials and so on, they want to live in a city. They want open innovation. They want to be in a place where research universities thrive. They want to be in a place that they enjoy and there's creativity all around them. Challenge is to build on these sort of innovative strengths and form a unique city proposition. And I think it's vital that this Global Auckland project takes off, because we've got to create a one-of-a-kind, irresistible hub. Our competition is Barcelona, it's Berlin, it's Stockholm, it's Toronto, it's Seoul. Auckland can live with them if we develop together a focus on creativity and innovation. There's 3 E's I want to leave you with. The one I've talked about all the time is edge, right? Kiwi Creative Turbo Drive. We don't have the money, as Ernest Rutherford said, so we have to think. Energy. We've got to get revved up about this project. We've got to all get behind, contribute to this creative thinking project. It's the only initiative that we've got going in New Zealand. We've got to get behind it and rev that up and make it happen. And the third E is enthusiasm. Okay, this is not a place to be humble and a place to be quiet about. We've got to have masses of enthusiasm to make things happen. Enthusiasts are an irresistible force of nature, and that's what we're going to need to put creativity at the top of the Auckland agenda. Enthusiasts like this one.
L'amour m'étrange de sa lame et me envenime. L'amour, c'est le soufflet qui me fait respirer à nouveau. Pour les autres, cela peut sembler étrange, mais ce que je fais, je le fais par amour. C'est étrange, mais l'amour a sa propre anastésie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for a fantastic lecture. That was simultaneously entertaining, illuminating, inspiring. I'm sure it will generate a huge amount of discussion. But it's my turn first. So you talked about the crazies and how we need more of these people. Are they born or made?
I think creativity is learned. I think you can be trained. I think every one of us is born creative. We start imagining, we start being encouraged, we start being nurtured, and then slowly but surely the fear builds up and the peer pressure builds up and we withdraw a little bit and we forget, and then we get taught to pass exams and taught to play down the middle and play a straight bat and do it for the team and all this nonsense, and we forget. And we forget about the freedom and the joy and the happiness that comes from creativity. So I think everyone in this room was born creative and has creativity locked inside them right now, and all you got to do is open it up.
How do you do that for yourself? When and where are you at your most creative?
I'm at my most creative. I don't own a tie, so I don't own one. So I go to black tie dinner. Actually, I don't go to black tie dinners for obvious reasons. But if I do go, I don't wear a tie. I don't have a tie, so I'm at my best when I'm loose, when I'm free, when I'm with people that I like. I have a thing about make happy choices. So I want to work with people that I like, on businesses that I love, in places that I'm comfortable in. So I live in Auckland, I live in Grasmere in the lakes, and I live in Arizona. I don't have an office anymore. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't hang out with clients very much. I don't really like them that much. So I like being with creative people, with athletes, with ambitious people who have ABCs. So for me, I get creatively inspired by making happy choices and hanging out in environments where crazy people hang out, where you can get IQ, EQ, and TQ.
So how do you then create?
Have you thought about all this in advance, this stuff?
A little bit.
Are you just making this up?
A little bit.
It's good so far.
Good creative.
Yeah,
Thanks, Sam. Thanks. So how do you foster that?
What?
Creativity, creating happy choices. How do you help your team
By giving
make happy
everybody
choices?
responsibility, learning, recognition, and joy, and
Yep.
people thrive in that stuff by going into a position where failure is not about getting the wrong idea. Failure is about not learning and fixing it. That's fair, right? A genius is a man who makes the same mistake once, okay? But you just twice, rather. So you just keep making different mistakes. It's awesome. And if you have that environment for creative people and you care for them, you really give them recognition, ideas come bubbling out.
Yeah, they say that the only way to have one really great idea is to just have lots.
Yeah, I think
Lots
that's right.
and lots.
Yeah, me
of
too. And I don't really
ideas.
care about really great ideas. I think if that's the benchmark, how many of us are ever going to have those, right? What we really want to have is to have lots of ideas that make us happy and make the world better and make people just a little bit happier. We don't need these great ideas, I don't think.
I'm sure one thing that the audience was struck by as I was listening to your presentation was your fearlessness, your confidence.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not
absolutely.
frightened.
You're not scared.
You know.
But do
who
you ever
cares?
get stuck?
No, I never get stuck.
You never get stuck?
No, stuck's for other people. People ask me, I do a lot of interviews, and there's two of these moronic questions that people ask you all over the world. Number one, what keeps you awake at night? Fuck all, I get tired and go to sleep. It's just like one of them things, right? Excuse the language, right? I'm sorry, what? Did I say that? No, never mind, sorry. Didn't mean it, naughty boy. So I just go to sleep at night, right? Because I'm tired, and then I wake up next morning, and I've usually got a better point of view. And the second thing they ask you is, what's your biggest failure? And I go, I'm going to tell you that. I don't think about that at all. I have no point of reference. I have no clue to the answer to that question because I'm always thinking about tomorrow, always thinking about the future, always trying to get ahead. And nobody knows the future, so what is there to be frightened of? Because nobody's got a better answer because we don't know.
Fair enough. So
Until I didn't go to school. I got kicked out of school when I was 16 for obvious reasons.
I dropped out at that age.
Yeah.
Possibly similar reasons.
No, you had a choice. I didn't have a choice on
Right.
mine. I'm going to have to sit down, my legs
Yes,
hurting.
sit. Yeah, no problem.
Do you mind?
Nope, that's it. Yep. So there's this stereotype of the creative genius, the crazy, I guess. And it always seems to be a really solo affair. There's that stereotype of the person, with their own vision, their mission, their ABCs, doing their thing. But to what extent do you think creativity can be a collaborative process?
That's a brilliant question. So we work, and I think it changes with people and it changes with place. So we were talking today about some people want to have quiet, they want to have space. Some people want to have more people. We work in teams of one, teams of two, tribes, formal, informal. People ask me about organization structure and hierarchy. Guess how much I know about that? Nothing. So I tell them that I have an organization structure which is based on the amoeba. I call it the amoeba structure. And every day we form and reform around the environment, around the problem, around the issue, around the priority. And we use a Rasky system, where you decide who's going to do what. But sometimes we ask our creative people, when are you at your best? What do you need? If you need to go away for 2 days on your own, go away for 2 days. Just make sure you come back with the answer.
Yeah.
Okay? If you want to take your dog with you, you take the dog with you. Make sure you or the dog comes back with the answer. Okay? Send the dog, I don't know. It's better than some of the answers I've been given, right? The dog would have been better. So I think that depends on the people, the moment, and so on. But what you've got to do is to give them the environment where they can thrive and flourish. Sometimes I need to be with people, sometimes I need to be on my own, and sometimes, I don't get anywhere anyway.
So you do get stuck?
No, I don't get stuck. I quite like not getting anywhere. I think I'm never stuck, I'm just open.
You're waiting?
Just waiting. Something's going to happen tomorrow, I'm going to go sleep, something's going to come, I got you now.
There's a certain amount of patience, isn't there?
Sorry?
There's a certain amount of patience.
Yeah, you can't rush it all the time,
No,
right?
it can't be forced.
Just leave. No, you can't. I don't think there's a formula. I don't think it's very scientific creativity. I think it's more artistic, It's more emotional. But there's no doubt that you can teach processes, techniques, tools, stuff like that to help bring that out quicker and more frequently.
So as a neuroscientist, I'm really interested in how science can help us understand creativity and the creative process. Hoping not to completely demystify it, but to get some more insight into what's happening in the brain. And the sorts of things you just described about leaving it alone, having some patience, letting it come to you. That's exactly right. The brain has to go into a resting state where new connections can simply emerge.
There you go.
They just pop into your mind. And I'm sure each of you will have experienced this at some point. You've been really battling perhaps with a problem at work or at home, and you've been going around in circles in your mind with it, and then you just think, okay, walk the dog, do some gardening, do some dishes. Or for me, it's my motorbike ride home. As soon as I'm doing something automatic that is not requiring too much of my brain, it's like my brain frees up and the idea just pops.
It's
and
like
I
the second
solve
bottle
the
of
problem.
red, really.
Can work. That's another strategy.
The difficulty with the second bottle of red, the only thing you have to have is to have somebody with you to remember what you told him the answer was.
Yeah. What's the problem again? And then what was the question and the answer?
And I usually got the problem. It's remembering what I said. Anyway.
So we've talked a lot this evening, and I think you've shown...
Just on that neuroscience thing, because I think it's great, and you would know this, and I want to check, because I hear all this, he's left brain, he's right brain, Isn't that a load of rubbish or not? I don't know.
Well, it's true that some things are quite specialised. So language for most of us is on the left side of our brain, and each side of the brain controls the opposite side of the body, so there is some specialisation. But in fact, what's really cool is there's been some recent research done in creativity. They basically took a bunch of illustrators and popped them in an MRI scanner and had looked at the parts of their brain that were active as they generated new ideas for book covers. It sounds crazy, but it does work.
That's good.
And they found that there is no one creativity spot in your brain. There's this whole network of areas that are activated by this, and it's equally on both sides of your brain. I think that's really cool because it tells us that your whole brain is engaged in the creative process.
So you can't rule out people because, so I'm going to be an accountant because I'm whatever side of the brain that has historically been. Left brain, is it? Or right brain?
Bit of both.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that's just rubbish, isn't it? It's just
Absolutely.
not true.
And in
I
fact,
believe that.
we know lots of people who have backgrounds in things that might be considered very logical and left-brainy, like accountancy and engineering, who are incredibly creative human beings.
Not that you really want creative accountants. So imagine if you're in... I had an MRI scan the other day.
Did you?
So as part of my annual checkup and all that, ECG and all that nonsense, right? And I'm in there and they're doing all this stuff. And I'm just thinking about it then, I got some of my people, if I put them into that test, what if it was just like blank? I might start doing that. It might help me find the Muppets.
Find the Muppets. Yeah, there could be like a Muppet screening MRI. What do you reckon?
Good,
Should we invent that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's invent that. I was actually going to ask you that if there was one thing that you could ask a researcher or a neuroscientist to discover about creativity, what would it be? What do you want to really, really know?
If I was to ask a researcher...
Or a neuroscientist.
Or I wouldn't be asking them. I'd be asking an artist or a poet.
Okay.
I wouldn't ask and I might be wrong, but I wouldn't ask a researcher for that, because what would they know? That would be I'd ask a poet or an artist.
So there are many ways to know and learn
and
create new knowledge.
No, don't get defensive. I'm just answering the question.
No,
just answering what you asked me, even if you didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get back to that. Very good. Very good. We've actually talked a lot tonight, very convincingly on your part, about the positives of creativity and innovation. You know, it's taking us. It is the future.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides?
No, I mean, obviously, there's all the security risks that you get with all this kind of stuff. You know, people say, you know, da-da-da-da. So you've always got to deal with those and manage those. But we're really good at managing risk and doing all that kind of stuff. We're so good at it, it's not funny. No, I think, you know, you've just got to... The world needs, more than anything else, growth, right? Because the economy is not big enough to support the world, right? So you have all the have-nots and all this kind of stuff. So what are we going to do? How are we going to create opportunities for them? To do that, you've got to grow them and grow economies and so on. That's not going to come from better managed institutions. It's not going to come from the state, right? It's going to come from transformational disruption. So I think bring it on. And the more people we can equip in the more countries, in the more cities, the faster we will grow and solve some of the world's big problems.
Are there any downsides to being a highly creative person?
Well, I mean, you have usually have a fairly chaotic financial life and a fairly chaotic sex life. I can't remember that very well, but I seem to remember something about that. But I think being a creative person is a choice that you make and you embrace and you love it and you go with it. So I don't think there's any poor me. I can't stand all that. Poor me, I'm a creative person. Right. It's more better, poor me, I'm Mick Jagger. Ooh. You know.
Shall we ask them something?
Without the leg.
You're all right, without the leg.
I bet Mick has days like this, you know, I'm just saying.
Shall we ask them something? I've got a question for them. I'll ask mine and then you can ask yours. Put your hand up if you're a creative person. Nice. Yeah, that's good. What do you say to that, Kevin?
They were listening.
Yeah, they're too scared to leave their hands.
Guys are not stupid out here, you know. They got everybody's creative. Yeah, that's me. I'm everybody.
I better put my hand up. Yeah. One of the goals of the Creative Thinking Project is that when we ask that question in public meetings like this, is that every single person puts their hand up. That every single Kiwi sees themselves as a creative human being, relishes it, harnesses it, uses it, enjoys it, is proud of it, and makes the most of it in their personal and work lives. So I think we're off to an amazing start because the vast majority of you put your hand up. So thank you for that.